Gunmetal Arcadia Zero was released on Friday. It is being released as a Humble Original, available exclusively to subscribers of the Humble Monthly Bundle. With Humble's blessing, I've also released it to supporters of my Patreon. And today what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a complete playthrough of the entire game with developer commentary. So anything that I can think of that maybe I haven't discussed in a previous blog or a previous video, I'll just be talking about that as I play through the game. So yeah, I guess I'll just go ahead and get started.
I'm going to switch over to the headset, so hopefully we get good audio and the game doesn't sound too loud in my ears. Alright, let's see. So yeah, Gunmetal Arcadia Zero, it's a Humble original. That means that Humble funded the development of this game, and it is released as an exclusive to subscribers of their Humble Monthly Bundle. I guess I'll sit here and watch through the whole intro. It's not that long. I wanted to do something, kind of in the vein of Ninja Gaiden and other classic NES games like that. Something that would sort of just very quickly, explain sort of the backstory to this game, nail down those beats really quick. The art for this is sort of a modified version of something that I did for the summer trailer last year. I went back over those and sort of did them as hand-drawn sketches and colored them in to use the NES color palette. But yeah, the intro and ending cutscenes sort of came in very, very last minute, and they're a little bit rough, but I'm mostly happy with how those turned out. So I do have the CRT sim enabled here, as you can see. It ships disabled because when I released Super Win the game, it seemed like that was what most players wanted by default, but it's still my preference. I'm really proud of the work that I've done on that, so I will be playing with it enabled today. So yeah, opening the game with Vireo Wake Up. That's a nod to Chrono Trigger and probably a bunch of other JRPGs. I don't clarify who's saying that. I guess I imagine that was Starling. Starling is Vireo's sister. She will be a playable character in the roguelike Gunmetal Arcadia, along with a few of the other characters that you meet throughout this game. Ganet is Vireo's dad. He used to be in the Seekers of Arcadia. And as you find out playing through the game, there's a little bit of a conflict going on between the Seekers of Arcadia and the Gunmetal Vanguard, who are sort of the military. If you try to leave without picking up a weapon, he will remind you that you need one. You can actually leave without that, and conceivably it might be possible to do a swordless playthrough of the entire game. I haven't tried it yet, but I sort of at least mentally stepped through what would be involved, and as long as you can get enough bombs and sub-weapons to stay alive, you can you might be able to do that. That's the only treasure chest in the game that has a button prompt over it. Normally you use your weapon to break those open. But of course, because you don't have a weapon, you're getting it from that one. I had to do that one a little bit differently. Yeah, most treasure chests just work like that. So with the NPCs and dialogue, I wanted to have that sort of Zelda 2, Castlevania 2, Phazanadu sort of feel of like very, very light RPG elements. So there are NPCs that you can talk to, but I didn't want to feel like the whole game was getting bogged down in narrative delivery. It's still primarily an action platformer game. You want to feel like you are like there's not any impediments to just running and jumping and killing monsters, and we really need to get into that sort of stuff as soon as possible. So that's that's why, as much as possible, when you talk to NPCs, it's just like the bare minimum sort of text that I think sort of frames the narrative a little bit. I talked a little bit early on about how the city, it's your home, but it's not necessarily supposed to be an inviting place. Like, I want it to feel, when you finally get out of the city, like there's a sense of freedom and a sense of adventure to that. So that's why, the city is sort of, it's sort of like blues and greens, and it just sort of has a dismal feel to it. Hopefully that's not a bad way to start the game. I was a little bit worried, like, oh, the first level in the game is ugly. But we'll see. The sub-weapons here, that's obviously that mechanic is stolen from Symphony of the Night, where you pick up a new one and the old one pops out. some of the weapon designs are obviously also stolen from Castlevania, like the dagger and the axe. But I have a few original designs in there as well. So this merchant here sells the combat bracers for cheaper than anyone else in the game does, and that's because the combat bracers are one of the most important items in the game, and I wanted everyone to have a chance to buy those immediately. So what those do is they let you attack up and jump and attack down. So if you've played Zelda 2, if you're familiar with the up and down stabs that you can get in that game, the combat bracers let you do that. So I didn't stop at the Gunmetal Vanguard station earlier in the level, which means that now I can come in here and join the Seekers of Arcadia. It's a background element in this game, but the conflict between the Gunmetal Vanguard and the Seekers of Arcadia is going to sort of come to the forefront in the roguelike game that I'm currently working on. And I wanted to, set up that conflict a little bit here. The Seekers also sell some weapons of their own design. I wanted them to be sort of somewhere between scholars and engineers. They're private researchers, research and development sort of people. So they have the pinion, which is a little bit like the hookshot from Zelda, just a short range melee weapon. And of course you can use that for up and down attacks too. And then they sell something called the spark shot. That's I imagine it's like a railgun sort of thing. It fires bolts, but it also can be used as a weaker melee weapon. This is where we really see the Zelda 2 influence, coming to the front. These guys do spawn indefinitely. If I keep walking back and forth here, they'll just keep spawning in. They also don't drop any loot. There's no experience in this game, but if there were experience, they wouldn't give you that. And that was something I played around with very, very early on, was the idea that maybe enemies would, drop, like, experience bubbles, like in Minecraft. And I don't know, it didn't feel good. I wasn't really interested in sort of having to tune experience levels, so I dropped that. But, it's always something that I could conceivably bring back for the roguelike. We'll see. And this guy, if you played Zelda 2, you've probably seen someone like that. Something that I want to play around with in this game, that I can expand on more in the roguelike, is the idea that when you see a door in the background, you don't know whether that's going to take you to a merchant, or, a room where the doors lock and enemies attack you. Of course, in the roguelike game, that can actually be randomized, so, it's not something you can learn, and you always have to take that gamble. In this case, it's every map is hard-coded, so you're going to see the same thing every time, but, there's still that initial uncertainty in what you're going to find there. This person is a jeweler. They'll pay more for gems. So I guess I'll sell all my gems here. Currently, my money is limited to 99 coins, so I'll stop there and not waste the gems I have selling above the money cap. So this is one of those rooms where the doors seal me in, and I have to kill everything to get out. I call these event rooms. And yeah, when I start working on the roguelike game, hopefully, I'm imagining that one of the sort of exciting things in that game will be that sense of not knowing for sure what you're going to get when you, go down some path in the background. Is it going to be a shop? Is it going to be enemies? Hopefully that's fun. You may have noticed there when I got hit by that guy, it knocked me forward a little bit. I'm going to skip over some of the narrative here and just go on to the next level. But yeah, when I got hit by that guy, it knocked me forward a little bit, and conceivably that's something that you could use if you are trying to speedrun this game to get that sort of damage boost. I haven't done any tests to see like how much time it really saves, and whether whether it's worth the loss in health, but yeah, maybe it will be helpful. I did try to build parts of this game with speedrunning in mind. The way enemies are sort of pseudo-random. they choose random actions, but they choose the same random actions every time. So like 2 different enemies won't follow the same paths, but one individual enemy will always do the same thing that he did the previous time he played. So they're learnable. Whereas things like loot drops, those are completely randomized. So there's something interesting that I did with the bosses here, and it starts out very subtle, and I think by the end of the game it becomes a little more clear. But when you run into the bosses, and it shows like the name of the boss, and then also some sort of title associated with those. The titles are actually written from the perspective of the enemies. So they start out, I think that one was like Twisted Fate, which doesn't mean a whole lot. When you come to the one at the end of this level, it's called Lucid Facade, and that one sort of makes a little bit of sense. By the end of the game, they're titles that seem like, I guess you'd say like honorifics. They seem like really positive things, and I wanted it to be that sort of, how would I describe that? I guess a discontinuity between like what your perception of these enemies is as the player, and what the enemies think of themselves. That room with the little what I call the rabbit elves taking inventory, that was something where this was the level that I built for the vertical slice, so it was the first level in the game, and when I was going back through it, sort of polishing it up for the shipping version, I realized I hadn't put anything in that room. I was like, well, I already have a lot of treasure in this level, you know, do I really want to put enemies in this level right off the bat? I couldn't decide what to do with it, so I just figured I would put that one little guy in there and have him say something weird and random. So that's where that came from. This is also the first level in the game where you can find a hidden 1-up. I've hidden those a few places throughout the game. I don't remember actually how many there are. I think there's like 5 of them, maybe 4. I don't know. But yeah, this was the first level I designed, and it sort of set the tone for what the remainder of the levels were going to be. In terms of scope, in terms of, you know, how many event rooms you find that are treasures, how many that are enemies, those sorts of things. Let's see, I guess I will buy the small purse here. So that raises my money cap. It also costs a lot though, so I'll go ahead and sell some of my gems to make up the difference there. And I'll buy a key too, because keys are always useful. So my goal is not to do like an optimal playthrough of this game. I'm basically just sort of showing off some of the ways that you could conceivably play this. Whoops. Well, I missed the hidden thing there. Not really hidden. I need a better sub-weapon. This one, the Lancers, they're really good for certain bosses, but you know, most of the time you want something that attacks forward. So yeah, I'll go with the dagger here. That'll be a little bit better. But yeah, the idea of like upgrades to how many sub-weapons you can carry, how much money you can carry, those sorts of things. That was very, very obviously inspired by Zelda, I guess. And sort of the other purpose it served was that I was feeling like money didn't really have much meaning in this game, when like the only things you could buy was health upgrades, but you also find health upgrades throughout the world, and you know, new weapons, but you only need those every so often, and those sorts of things. And being able to increase, you know, the bomb cap, the ammo cap, those sorts of things. Yeah, it makes money feel a little more useful. This is one of my favorite rooms in the game because of a sort of a silly bug that I decided was funny and didn't want to fix. That I'll show here in just a second. So if I stand right here and kill this thing, then when the treasure chest drops, the treasure chest can actually hurt you when it falls on you. And yeah, that's a bug that I deliberately decided not to fix because I thought it was too funny. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm just going to leave that one in. So of course I had to put Medusa heads in this game. I'm not good at dodging Medusa heads. But this is one of those places where, you know, the fact that enemies always follow the same pattern every time, you know, they follow a learnable pattern, so because I've played this room, you know, a zillion times, I sort of know how I can progress through very quickly without the Medusa heads causing too much trouble. Yeah, if you're a speedrunner, you know, you can sort of learn how enemies work and predict when they're going to give you trouble. You can't necessarily always predict what sub-weapons you'll have at any given time, so you do have to manage that a little bit, but yeah, hopefully there's a good balance of predictability and challenge there. This was another thing that I changed from the vertical slice. I added a building here where you meet someone named Grackle. Grackle is also going to be a playable character in the roguelike game. She is a retired Gunmetal Vanguard soldier, or weaponsmith, and now she runs the hotel. I'm imagining that every character in the roguelike will have different starting stats, different starting equipment, you know, sort of like you would expect in a game like Binding of Isaac. And Grackle will probably start with some of the better weapons, because she is a weaponsmith. All of the elves have bird names, and there's no real reason for that, I just kind of thought it was cool. Way back towards the end of, I guess it was 2014, when I first started working on this game, I was trying to think who the cast of characters would be. Originally I was thinking it would be 3, and they were Grackle, Thrush, and Starling, and Vireo sort of came along later. I imagined he would be maybe like a DLC character or something, and somehow he eventually became the main character of Gunmetal Arcadia Zero. But yeah, I just basically chose those names because they sounded cool, and the fact that they were bird names was a unifying theme, but didn't really mean a whole lot, and then I just sort of kept building on that, and all of the other elves now have bird names, and it's just kind of this pointless thing that gave me names to pick from. So this kind of hints at what one of the future levels is, the idea that there are these catacombs below the city. This room here actually was the very, very first room that I ever designed as a test map for the roguelike game. I just rebuilt it and figured it would be a fun little Easter egg for people who had been following my blogs from the very beginning. I should come up here and break all this stuff. The soft dirt that you can break with your weapon has a chance to drop loot, but the harder rocks that you need bombs to break have a better chance of dropping loot, so it's always a good idea to break those if you have the bombs available, because they can drop money and gems and stuff. The idea with gems was basically, you know, the only thing that you can do with them is sell them for money, but different people will pay different amounts. So, like if you need money right away, you might want to sell them, but you know, if you can afford to hold out a little bit longer, you might find someone who can pay a better price for those. And again, that's one of those things I hope in the roguelike game, the random chance of maybe finding someone who can pay more for weapons. Hopefully that will be sort of a you know, interesting randomized thing. So this was the first boss that I designed. Still one of my favorites. It's this sort of blob monster that has, I guess, sort of grown around one of the LCD display screens that you've seen throughout the level. So it's, you know, making all these happy faces at you while it's trying to kill you. I just thought it was a sort of funny concept. I had an idea early on in development that I wanted all the bosses to sort of do whatever storytelling they could, just in that sense of like you see things throughout the level that then sort of culminates in a boss fight. And I don't necessarily think I found ways to do that in every level, but there are a few of those, and I think that was one of my favorites. As this is another guy who, you know, pays more for gems, so I will offload whatever gems I have. I don't remember. I think my money cap right now is 500, so yeah, I can go ahead and sell all of those. I could go ahead and buy the large purse, but I think I'll just buy a couple of keys. I probably need to buy the the first of the ammo upgrades at some point. Alright, so we've made it to the 3rd level. We are out in the city now, out in what I call the wilds, the wilderness area outside the city. And this is where we start to meet the first of the wild elves. And this is Thrush. Thrush is also going to be a playable character in the roguelike game. He sort of acts as a liaison between the city elves and the wild elves. Although if you ask him about the wild elves, he says they don't use that term, because of course why would they call themselves wild elves? They're just elves who live out in the countryside. And he has sort of negative feelings towards the silly conflicts of the city elves. And I'm hoping that, you know, in the roguelike game, depending on who you play as, other characters may react differently to you. So, you know, if you play as Thrush, you know, maybe not everyone maybe not everyone likes him, maybe they think he's sort of judgmental of city elves and that sort of thing. So I want to try bringing that sort of, you know, storytelling, having characters react differently. This guy here will not attack you unless you attack him first, and that goes for some of the wildlife out here as well. You know, I walked past this sort of cow-looking thing earlier. I wanted it to look sort of like a cross between a cow and a horse. I don't really know what it is. But yeah, if you attack them, they'll attack you back, and I'll probably do that by accident sometime before I finish this run. So this is probably one of the more challenging rooms in the game, at least in the first half. Depending on what secondary or sub-weapons you have, it might not be too difficult. You know, the Lancers work really well there for attacking above you, but oh no, I dropped a gem and now I can't get it back. But yeah, this is one of those rooms that you know, even as many times as I've played through this game, it's still, you know, it's a little bit challenging for me. And you know, I think it's good to have those occasionally. I sometimes worry that, well, I mean, I guess I always worry that my games are both too easy and too hard at different times. So I don't know. I have to wait for player feedback on that one. These guys are one of my favorite enemies. They sort of they have these two different states. They can be, you know, up and attacking or down and crawling through the ground. And I don't think I leaned on that sort of like two-state enemy often enough. Maybe for the roguelike game, if I do some new enemy designs for that one, I'll try to find some places where I can do that. Yeah, I think it's sort of an interesting design. For the longest time, I didn't have water in this game, even though I had it in Super Win, so I had the technology. I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to use that. And then I was playing through Zelda 2, and I was like, oh right, there's the swamps in Zelda 2. And of course, these enemies are straight out of the swamps in Zelda 2 also. So it just, you know, you don't become completely submerged like you could in Super Win the game, but you know, it slows down your movement and also adds some challenge later when you find lava instead of water. You know, one of the recent changes I made to this game, just like within the last few weeks before shipping, is that when you die, you keep all of the gear you found. So, you know, I have the axe sub-weapon. Wow, I'm off to a great start here. So I am on my final life. That would be really, really embarrassing if I game overed here. So I'm going to try to take my time and not screw this up. What's going to be the best weapon for this thing? I think, yeah, the axe is still going to be my best bet. So these guys follow the same rules as Medusa heads, which is that if you are close to one side of the screen, they won't appear from that side. So like if I stand over here, they will only spawn from the right side of the screen. So you can kind of use that to your advantage to sort of game the system and make sure that you always know where they're going to be coming from. I don't remember exactly what the boundaries there are. I think it's like within maybe 4 tiles of the end of the screen. They won't spawn from that side. And that was mostly to prevent, you know, Medusa heads from popping in just as you were leaving a room and taking damage or something like that. Alright, so I'm gonna try not to die here. I don't know if I ever said it specifically, but those little, like, jumpy dudes were basically supposed to be like the flea men from Castlevania. I wanted an enemy who just sort of hopped around erratically, and you know, I think even though I didn't copy their behavior exactly, I think I at least have that same dynamic of unpredictability. So I'd say that's a win. You know, I don't actually remember whether the sub-weapons all have an equal chance of spawning. I think some of the simpler ones, like the knife and axe, may appear more frequently. I do feel like this 3-way shot doesn't show up as often as I would like it to. It's one of my favorites. So there's just a little bit of the screen that you can scroll down there, and it's enough to give you a hint that you know, that drop isn't going to kill you. And of course, there's a guy down here who can buy and sell a few different things. I actually don't really need anything from him right now, so I'm just gonna move on. There's a healer. If I'd come down the elevator there, there's a healer over on the left side. I don't need healing right now. I think I'm probably going to put flying eyeballs in every game I make ever. They are, of course, a reference to Zelda 2, but also, you know, literally every other game that's ever been made. I will take the 3-shot back. So this guy, you know, you can keep hitting this guy all you want, and he's getting healed by something down here, and there's this other sort of satellite enemy that's flying around. And this one doesn't attack you, although the shots it's firing to heal the other guy will hurt you. So you have to take care of that one first. If you can do enough damage to kill this guy before he heals, he will die, and then the other thing will stop firing shots. So, you know, I did handle that case correctly. You know what, just because I have to do this at some point. I like the animation those guys do. Ah, that guy gets stuck. That guy's actually getting stuck on sort of invisible walls at the end of these little platforms here. Because I use what I call hint walls to keep enemies bounded on platforms so they can turn around at the edge of a platform, and yeah, he's hitting those, even though he doesn't, he's not standing on that platform directly. So along with that, that one upward room at the start of this level, I would say this is one of the harder rooms here, just because there isn't much room to avoid either the enemies dropping the hooks or these turrets. And if you take the path on the bottom, there's also more turrets down there. Even though you have more room to avoid the hooks, it's harder to avoid the turrets. So this room is difficult any way you slice it. So I'm just going to move on. Not try to get the treasure chest, not try to get anything else, I'm just going to keep moving. I think I talked early on about how I want the levels to have sort of a, what I call a verse-chorus structure. Sort of thinking about it in terms of music, or of pop songs. And one of the ways I did that is to sort of break levels down into these stretches of vertical and horizontal runs. So in almost every level, you know, you'll travel some distance horizontally, and then you'll come to a bit like the room I just came from, where you'll go either up or down some distance. And that was sort of inspired by looking at games like Mega Man, but also Castlevania to some extent, and sort of seeing what the dynamics of their levels were. Yeah, there's another one of those 1-ups up there. I don't think I can get that one yet, or well, I can get it, but I'd have to go through another bit. It's not difficult to reach, and 1-ups also do not disappear, so you don't have to worry about like getting them in time. Oh, actually, no, I can do here. Hopefully I won't die trying this, but you can bounce off of these guys as they jump. Ah, I didn't do it. You can bounce off those guys with the down stab as they jump, and you could use that to bounce up and get that 1-up, but I messed up. So the sub-weapon I have right now, the Lancers, this is really good for this boss, so I'm gonna use that here. Yeah, the Zealous node, I guess this is the first time when those names start to seem very clearly positive. Or at least not like what you would normally expect from boss titles in something like a Zelda game. Almost every boss can be defeated very, very quickly with one sub-weapon, and that was, I never really sat down and sort of said like, oh, I want that to be one of my goals, but just after playing through the game enough, I started to realize, oh, this one sub-weapon would work really, really well for this one boss. So that's sort of a positive side effect. This is one of a couple of mimics in this game. Spoilers. Yeah, I've talked about that one in the past, but one of the reasons I put treasure chests in this game was because I want to have mimics, just because I love them in Dark Souls. And yeah. So here we run into Rin, and she talks about how Jay has gone on ahead. Jay and Rin are the captains of the guard, high-ranking leaders in the Gunmetal Vanguard, and they are the heroes, whereas Vireo is just some kid. While I'm here, I don't need to sell these yet, but this guy, if I recall correctly, yes, he sells some better weapons, so I'm going to go ahead and upgrade my weapons, and also, yeah, I'm going to buy the Sharp Talon. So the Talon is sort of the basic short sword. I tend to think it's the best weapon in the game. It's sort of the default weapon that I've spent the most time playing with. You don't see it very often, but if you grab the same sub-weapon you already had equipped, it just gives you extra ammo. Works the same as one of the little ammo star pickups. So this is one of my favorite levels in the game, just because this is the tile set that I originally started designing way back when I first started working on this game. Yeah, it's nice to sort of see this level come to fruition. Yeah, there are blocks here that you can break for a shortcut. Kill that guy who's hanging on the ceiling. I think this is also the first time you see lava. Yes, it is. So if I had managed my money a little bit better, I could have bought an upgrade that would let me walk safely through lava, but I don't have that yet, so I'm gonna have to try to avoid this. And if I had jumped up there, I could have taken the ladder over it, but I think I can jump far enough, yes. There are a few upgrades that you can find throughout this game that will let you jump higher. So normally, by default, your jump height, is high enough to jump, from, I guess you could call this either two blocks or 4 blocks. You can jump that high. If you're walking side to side, you can get a little bit more height, but not quite enough to clear another, 2 or 3 blocks above that. But you can find some upgrades that let you reach some places you otherwise couldn't. But I never was able to assume that the player would have any of those, because the game never forces you to get certain upgrades. So the entire game can be completed without any of the movement upgrades. There are those. There's one that reduces air friction, reduces ground friction, or increases friction, so you don't slide. And then of course, the one that lets you walk through lava. The music that plays in this room was one of the very, very first pieces of music that I wrote for this game, and was sort of the first one that I wrote that I felt like really captured the feeling of what I thought the soundtrack to Gunmetal Arcadia should be. So basically everything that I wrote since then has been an attempt to riff on some of those same ideas. I think there's actually only 2 rooms in the game where this music plays now. There's this one, and then there's another one later in this level. So it's funny how some of the ideas I had early on that I was like, oh, this is going to be so crucial to what this game is, ended up, they are in there, but not necessarily, as much to the forefront as I would have imagined early in development. This is one of those rooms where, depending on what sub-weapon you have, that eyeball can be very difficult to kill. And of course, if you have bombs, you can just break that and shortcut down to the end. But I want the treasure chest anyway, so I'm going to run over here. This room is kind of just a showcase for, enemy AI targeting, because everything fires aimed shots at you. This is actually, I think, the only part in the entire game where the path splits into 2 branches. I generally wanted the critical path to be clear, and I think in this case, because you have to break through those walls to get over here, it's clear this is not critical path. But yeah, I think that's the only place where, not counting doorways into the background, where the path splits. And there's some dangerous platforming here, and it's all for a treasure chest. I haven't really decided yet for the roguelike game whether I want branching paths or whether I want to sort of try to generalize the ways that I structured levels in this game, and just procedurally generate more levels like those. I think I tend to kind of assume, I've already made this game, so I don't want to do just a bunch of randomly generated versions of this game, so I might try to find other things that are more interesting, do branching paths, do legitimate dungeon crawling, but I have to prototype it, I have to find where the fun is, and roll with what works. So this is the other room in the game where you hear this one piece of music. This is also one of only a few places where I really significantly did some palette swapping. the ability to palette swap tiles was something that I wanted very early in development, and that I completed early in development, but I didn't really end up using it as much for this game as I had thought that I might, or hoped that I would. I think in the roguelike game probably I can take better advantage of it, but yeah, it just didn't always make sense for the level that I was working on this one. This is another boss where the Lancers are a pretty good sub-weapon. You know, if I had any ammo for it. But yeah, the way this guy works is sort of a classic boss fight cliche. He can sort of create clones of himself, and the clones will fire bullets at you, so you want to get rid of those, but once you kill them all, he can create more clones, and he only takes damage if you hit the real one. So this is also the only enemy in the game who uses truly randomized attack patterns. Most enemies, like I said, will follow the same patterns every time, and this guy does not. So, you know, if you're planning on speedrunning the game, take note of that. You cannot predict what this guy is going to do. So I have 7 hearts now. This is where we find Rin, and she's been injured. And Jay has gone on ahead, and he's being reckless, so yeah, something bad's probably going to happen to him, right? Spoilers. Oh, nice. Just got a bunch of gems there. I think this is the final jeweler in the game. So I will buy the large purse and then sell all of my gems. So now I should be in a pretty good place to buy new weapons, which new weapons do become available in this level as well. Although this guy does not have any. I'm gonna pause for just a second here. Oh, sorry about that, I had to answer a text real quick. So, the forest tile set is one of my favorites in the game, and the rocks too. I think for sticking within the NES Killer palette, I think it did a really good job of making it look like, maybe not quite like a Super NES game, but yeah, definitely pretty good for, you know, NES restrictions. You can actually jump up on top of these platforms on top of the pillars. There's nothing up there, I think, unless there's the one up that I forgot about. But yeah, you can jump on top of those. This is probably the last of the Gunmetal Vanguard and Seekers of Arcadia shops that most players will find. The last, or at least find on first playthrough, the last one is difficult to get to. But they have the best weapons in the game here, as well as a lot of power-ups. So I don't have any gems to sell, but I will go ahead and... you know, the Spark Shot is really good, but I don't have much ammo, so I think I'm going to go back to the Pinion. And then I will buy the Adjunct Catalyst, which lets you walk through lava. And if you go down there, there's the Gunmetal Vanguard guy down there too, but I don't need to talk to him. So this is one of those places where I reuse a primary boss as a mini boss. Actually, this guy is super easy to kill because you can just stand up on this platform here and, you know, try to dodge his shots or just, you know, button mash. Hey, I can grab the key because lava doesn't hurt me. Yay. Lava does not kill you instantly, but it does do constant damage over time. Oh, this, where is it? Yeah, there's one up there, but you need jump upgrades to reach it, so I can't get that one just yet. I think I already mentioned this in a blog post once, but the colors of the coins that you can pick up to mark different denominations are sort of a mashup of the colors of rupees in Zelda games and the colors of items in World of Warcraft. I wanted gold to be the default coin that's just worth, you know, 1 coin. But then after that, there's silver, which is sort of equivalent to white in World of Warcraft. So then it goes from there, white to green to blue to purple, I think. Or no, it's green to blue to red, because that's taken from Zelda, where, you know, green is worth 1, blue is worth 5, red is worth 20. And then it goes back to Warcraft standards, and it's purple and gold. So yeah, hopefully that's something where it sort of feels intuitively like those are increasing in quality, increasing in amounts. The actual rarity of every coin is inversely proportional to how much it's worth. So even this person will buy weapons at increased prices if you have any, but since I usually sell back the ones I'm carrying, I don't have any. I will, however, buy some extra ammo here. Actually, no, she doesn't sell the. I need an ammo upgrade. I've been forgetting to buy that. I think this is a healer. Yeah. What was I saying? Oh, right. I was talking about coin denominations. The amounts that each coin is worth is inversely proportional to how often it shows up. So even if you don't always get the same, you know, frequency of drops, you still are roughly going to get the same amount of money on every playthrough. It doesn't always work out that way, but, you know, in the limited amount of testing that I've done, I've never felt like I didn't have enough money to buy things that I really needed, but I've also never felt like I had so much money that I could buy everything that existed, and that's where I was hoping to land. So the Lancers are also good for this boss. You can just sort of cheese him if you stand down here and fire these up. But again, I'm running low on ammo because I have not been paying attention and picking up the ammo upgrades, so I am going to have to do some hand-to-hand here. This boss, of course, is the one that was in the key art painting that I did a long time ago that ended up not actually being the key art for the game, but I still use it in a few different places. And, oh, you know, I was mentioning earlier that, yeah, I'm up to 8 hearts now. Well, I'll resume that thought in a second after I talk to Jay. So, you find Jay here, and he's found their queen, but he's been mortally wounded. He gives me his sword, and now I have to go become the hero. So it immediately equips the sword, and it's the only weapon in the game that's not the same color as the player. Typically, I use whatever palette the player is. So obviously, if you have Virio's like, you know, orangish golden, and the weapons match that. But in this one case, I allow the weapon to use its own palette instead. But yeah, like if I were playing as a different character, like Thrush or Grackle, the weapons would be colored to match their own palette. Right, but picking up my train of thought, I was saying I have 8 hearts now. I had started saying this and when I hit 7 hearts after finishing the previous level. The most hearts that you can get in a single playthrough is 8, because you get 1 heart container for killing every boss. But you can start a new playthrough after you finish the game and continue with everything that you had. So you can actually get up to a maximum of 16. If you play through the game, I guess 3 times. The game is not rebalanced for New Game Plus. It doesn't get any more difficult on a second playthrough, but I did sort of leave stubs in so that it would be possible for me to do that in the future if there's interest in it. I don't know how many players are going to notice this is here, but if you have the Adjunct Catalyst and can walk all this way without killing yourself, there's another event room back here where you can get some treasure. I have actually died from having that treasure chest fall on me before. That was really embarrassing. So the inspiration for this level is kind of, you know, if you play games like Contra is a good example. I'm sure there are others that have done this, but games where the final level is sort of like an alien hive, and it just feels so strange and different from the rest of the game. And you're like, man, how did I get here from there? That was what I was sort of wanting to riff on with this level. Is like just that complete 180 from what you're used to. That being said, this actually still does use a lot of familiar tiles. Yeah. I guess the walls here are a little bit different, but when I go into the next room over to the left, you'll see, well, these pillars in the background here are from the Catacombs tile set, and then when I come over this way, all of these bricks over here are also from the Catacombs tile set. So I wanted it to have a feeling like there's something sort of familiar but distorted. Like maybe it's this alien hive that's grown up around the Catacombs and sort of changed it in some way, sort of infected it. I put that little crumbling platform in there because I kept killing myself falling onto those spikes, and I was like, you know, if I'm doing that repeatedly after, you know, making the level and knowing that those are there, I'm sure other players are going to have problems with it. And same thing with all of these crumbling platforms on top of spikes there. I'm like, yeah, you know, you can like crouch and hold down to sort of scroll the camera down and see where you're going, but it can be really frustrating to have to do that and feel like you're punished for not doing that and fall into spikes and instantly die. I like the weapon I had. Alright, so now we fight basically a redo of the you know, previous boss, except this one can also spit fireballs if you're standing sort of directly in front of it, which makes it very difficult to fight hand to hand. If I had the Lancer's sub-weapon, that would be fantastic here. Also, I don't think I can actually use bombs to kill this one because the explosion radius is not big enough to hit it in the head, which is the only place that's vulnerable. Although I guess if it's close enough there, I can still hit it with those. This is actually the first time I've ever tried using bombs to kill this thing. That's awesome. That's the only mini-boss in the game that plays that flashing animation when it dies. Most of the time for mini-bosses I didn't want them to do that, but it just looked really, really strange when that one just vanished out of existence, so I left it in. This is also... this is where the final Seeker of Arcadia and Gunmetal Vanguard Soldier are hidden. They're over on the left through a wall that you can bomb through there. But it's a little bit difficult to reach even if you know that it's there, so I'll try. Oh wait, I don't have any bombs anyway, so I'm not gonna not gonna be able to do that. But yeah, if you have bombs, you can, you know, sort of drop one here and then, you know, try to get back up there. If you did not have the adjunct catalyst, this room would be sort of difficult to make it through. You would have to take some damage, but it is doable. You know, you can jump up onto the platforms up above and skip over most of the lava. And now we've almost come to the end of the game here. I do have a key, which is important. You don't need a key to finish the game, but it's nice to have one when you get here because, well, once I come out here, the music gets, you know, the music changes and gets spooky, and the camera starts to scroll over that way, sort of hint that that's where you're supposed to be going. But you can actually come over this way first, and there's, you know, a locked door over here, and a final chance to refuel before the final boss fight. I do have some bombs, so I can get through here. This is one of only 2 places, I think, in the game where one of those full heart refills drops, not from a mini-boss. And I guess I will sell what I have. I definitely... Okay, this guy does sell the ammo and bomb upgrades, so I don't have enough money to buy the larger ones, but I will buy the small bandolier so I can have more ammo, and I will buy as much ammo as I can afford, because I am going to want that for the final boss. Alright, so I have avoided showing the final boss throughout the entire development process. I guess I'm going to go ahead and spoil that right here. Let's see, yeah, I'm just going to stick with the dagger. The dagger's fine. So from the very start, I knew that I want the final boss to be sort of this room-sized monster. You can only hurt it by hitting it in the eyes. It spits fireballs at you, and then it can scream and shake the room and drop boulders on you. So, as you kill it, it sort of changes how frequently it does each of those attacks. Towards the start of the fight, it uses fireballs more frequently. Towards the end, it drops boulders more frequently. You can also stand under these and attack them, and sometimes they will drop ammo and hearts, so you can sort of keep yourself alive and keep yourself equipped throughout the fight. I'm not doing a very good job of that here. This one you can't actually hurt with bombs. The radius is enough to hit the eyes here. I'm going to be really embarrassed if I die here on the final boss fight. These sometimes drop hearts, so I'm just going to keep doing this. Alright, there we go. Alright, there. I was like, that was going to be super embarrassing. I don't actually ever explain what this is in the context of this game. Well, I guess I kind of do in the ending. But you grab that. It's not a heart container. It doesn't refill your health. But if you open your inventory, then you'll see you have this Seed of Unmaking. And that doesn't do anything in this game, but it's going to be important in the roguelike game for the narrative. And also, if I ever do go back through and add some New Game Plus sort of stuff to this game, that's what actually increases the New Game Plus counter. So you could choose, if you wanted to skip over that and just restart the game from scratch. But like I said, it doesn't do anything yet. It's just one of those things that may someday do something. So that's the end of the game here. I'll let the end credits and credits, or let the end sequence and credits roll. My goal with the ending was mostly to sort of set up the roguelike game. The idea is that there are other hives with other seeds of unmaking, and this is what's sort of given rise to these monsters. And basically that puts the characters in a place now where, you know, a randomly generated roguelike game makes sense from a narrative standpoint. Like, there's lots of places that you might be going out to fight the enemy, so you know it sort of makes sense if each one of these looks a little bit different, and if we play it over and over. Of course, huge thank you again to my Patreon supporters. Did have a production baby on this game. That's our son James. And then of course Humble is awesome, super responsive. They did a great job of helping me get this game out the door. So I'm not going to play through the whole thing, because like I said, it's not really any different yet, but if you go and look at your save file, you'll see it says Chapter 1 plus 1, and that means that my New Game Plus level is 1. Maybe someday I'll actually, go back and make that mean something. If I were to start the game from here, it would just basically drop me back right at the start of the game, as if nothing had happened, but I keep all of my equipment and all of my upgrades from the previous session. So, you can get more than 8 hearts that way and that sort of thing. But I'll go ahead and call it there.
Well, that is Gunmetal Arcadia Zero. Thank you for watching. I'm going to keep working on the roguelike Gunmetal Arcadia. That should be out hopefully either by the end of this year or early next year. I don't have a specific release date for that yet, but stay tuned to the development blogs at gunmetalarcadia.com. This series is supported through Patreon. Shout out to Patreon supporters Jace, Benjamin Anderson, and Opa and Nana for their support. You can find the links to my Patreon campaign below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.